عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فذنا وفعذا شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال عبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا حازا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيها جميع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله حمه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا، فعذوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد.
بر محمد وال محمد صلوات. اب میں سلام کے لیے انجمن ذوالفقار علی کے کاظم علی صاحب سے گزارش کروں گا کہ وہ آئے اور سلام پیش کریں. بر محمد وال محمد صلوات.
صلوات پڑھ دیے گا. جناب سجاد کی شہادت گزری ہے، اس حوالے سے سلام ہے. میں سوچتا ہوں کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا. میں سوچتا ہوں کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا. اسیر ہو کہ وہ جب شام میں گیا ہوگا. میں سوچتا ہوں کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا. سنا ہے شام میں جاتے ہی خون رونے لگا. سنا ہے شام میں جاتے ہی خون رونے لگا. نہ جانے شمر نے اس وقت کیا کہا ہوگا. میں سوچتا ہوں کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا. وہ ظلم دیکھے ہیں سجاد نے حسین کے بعد. وہ ظلم دیکھے ہیں سجاد نے حسین کے بعد. مجھے یقین ہے کہ اب تک بھی رو رہا ہوگا. میں سوچتا کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا، اسیر ہو کہ وہ جب شام میں گیا ہوگا، گلے کے طوق نے عابد کو کیا جھکانا تھا، گلے کے طوق نے عابد کو کیا جھکانا تھا، وہ اپنے کھوئے ہوئے لال ڈھونڈتا ہوگا، میں سوچتا ہوں کہ عابد کا حال کیا ہوگا۔ صلوات۔
اور محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ بار دیگر بآواز بلند صلوات۔
جو شہ کے طرف دار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں بھی، جو شہ کے طرف دار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں بھی، وہ طالب دیدار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں بھی، جو شہ کے طرف دار دنیا ہی نہیں وقف عزاداری سرور، دنیا ہی نہیں وقف عزاداری سرور، شبیر کے غم خار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں بھی، جو شہ کے طرف دار عباس نے عادا سے کہا تول کے تلوار، ہم حق کے پرستار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں، کہتے ہیں ہمیں صف شکنوں صفدر و جرار، ہم نائب کرار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں بھی، جو شہ کے طرف طرفدار شہ نے کہا پیاسے نہیں ہم اے عمر سال مست مائے انوار یہاں بھی ہیں وہاں چاہیں تو بہے زیر قدم چشمہ کوثر ہم پانی پہ مختار یہاں بھی ہے وہاں بھی جو شہ کے طرف دار صلوات فاتحہ جب کہ دربار میں ناموں سے پیمبر آئے جب کہ دربار میں ناموں سے پیمبر آئے بال کھولے ہوئے بے مقنع و چادر آئے سر کے بالوں سے چھپائے رخ انور ارے بیڑیاں تھامے ہوئے عابد مضطر آئے بیڑیاں تھامے ہوئے عابد مضطر سخت آفت میں گرفتار وہ سب خوش خو تھے ریسماں ایک تھی اور کئی بازو تھے رسن ظلم سے چھلتے تھے یتیموں کے گلے سہم جاتے تھے کشاکش میں وہ نازوں کے پلے مائیں آفت میں گرفتار تھی کیا زور چلے رو کے دیکھا کبھی عابد کو کبھی ہاتھ مرے رو کے دیکھا کبھی عابد کو کبھی ہاتھ شمر کہتا تھا کہ حاکم کا غضب آئے گا قیدیوں میں کوئی رویا تو سزا پائے گا قیدیوں میں کوئی رویا تو سزا پائے شمر کو دیکھ کے بولا وہ علی کا دشمن کھول دے قیدیوں کی گردن و بازو سے جب چھٹیں بندے رسن سے وہ گرفتار تب سکینہ نے لیا کرتے کا منہ پردہ تب سکینہ نے لیا کرتے کا منہ پردہ باپ کے غم میں دل زار جو تن میں ایسا روئی کے سر پاک لگن میں ایسا روئی کے سر پاک لگن میں تن بولا حاکم کے نہایت ہے تجھے باپ کی تخت کے نیچے یہ کیا تشت میں ہے کر تو نے پاس جا کر جو لگی دیکھنے بانا لاؤ خون میں ڈوبا ہوا اس کو نظر آیا سر خون میں ڈوبا ہوا کو نظر آیا سرش تشت پر گر کے پکاری کہ یہ حال آپ کا لو پھوپھی جان یہی سر تو میرے باپ کا ہے لو پھوپھی جان یہی سر تو میرے باپ گود میں لے کے سر ابن علی چلائی ان کھلی آنکھوں کے قربان تمہاری جائی ایسے بھولے کہ نہ بیٹی بھی تمہیں یاد آئی اتنی مدت میں یہ کیا شکل مجھے دکھلائی اتنی مدت میں یہ کیا شکل مجھے دکھلائی کیا خاموشی ہے اب لال تو کھولو کیا غضب ہو گیا کچھ منہ سے تو بولو بابا کیا غضب ہو گیا کچھ منہ سے تو بولو بابا جب کے دربار میں
Now may I request Sheikh Abbas Panju to please come to the podium and address the Mu'mineen Mu'minat. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
closer. This is good. Thank you. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وعلى غاصبي حقوقهم وعلى منكري فضائلهم من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب الغرباء، يا مظلوم كربلاء. السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته. السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته. السلام على ساكن كربلاء. فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، يا سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال مولانا إمام أبو الحسن أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: تعلموا كتاب الله تبارك وتعالى فإنه أحسن القصص وأبلغ الموعظة، وتفقهوا فيه فإنه ربيع القلوب، واستشفوا بنوره فإنه الشفاء لما في الصدور. صدق الإمام وآمنا به. زينوا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Hadith Sharif, Ahibai, that emanates from Maulana Amirul Mu'mineen Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. Where Amirul Mu'mineen says, Ta'allamu kitab Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Ta'allamu, learn the book of Allah, and he learned the Quran. You find that the words of the Imam that are used, and as you may have noticed, the manhaj over the last few days or the past nights is to be able to understand the depth of the words using the grammar of the Quran and the grammar of the Hadith itself. You find when Amir al-Mu'mineen says ta'allamu, ta'allamu is a verb derivative from ta'allama or alima. And you find that it is in its command tense, ta'allamu, fi'l amr. فَأَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ is commanding the people. If we take ourselves to be from the mu'mineen, Imam Ali is the Amir of all mu'mineens, the commander of all the believers. And hence when the commander issues a verdict, when the leader and the master issues a command, it is up to us as the followers to respond to this command. The command of Amir al-Mu'mineen is what? Ta'allamu kitab Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Learn the Quran, study the Quran. فَإِنَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْقِصَصِ. Indeed, the Quran has, or أحسن الحديث. For indeed, the Quran has the best of advice, وَأَبْلَغُ الْمَوْعِظَةِ, the most eloquent when it comes to admonition. And then Amir al-Mu'mineen goes on to say, وَتَفَقَّهُ فِيهِ. Don't only just read the Quran on its own. Rather, he says, تَفَقَّهُ فِيهِ. تَفَقَّهُ فِيهِ, the word fiqh, in its proper Arabic usage, means to study to an extent or to acquire the deep meanings behind the tenets of our religion. It is only in the recent time, over the last few hundred years, that the word fiqh is khasatan, exclusively used to refer to masail of halal and haram within the furu'uddin. However, if you were to see the usage of the word fiqh as per the Quran and the usage of the word fiqh as per the hadith of Ahlul Bayt, you will see that tafaqquh and fiqh actually has to do with something much more comprehensive than furu'uddin. It includes usuluddin, because tafaqquh requires understanding and contemplation of the deep meanings. For Amir al-Mu'mineen says, contemplate over the deeper meanings of the Quran such that you are able to extract the secrets from the Quran. وَاسْتَشْفَوْا بِنُورِهِ, seek shifa and elevate yourself through the light of the Quran. فَإِنَّهُ شِفَاء لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. The Quran is a cure for what is in the hearts. Meaning that if there is anything that can bring the wild, uncontrollable nafs, this wild nafs that is inclined towards disobedience, that is inclined towards fitna and fasad, this raging urge within us to disobey the Lord, this can only be controlled through the Quran and the light of the Quran. Shifa'un lima fi sudur. Even though this kalam of Amir al-Mu'mineen is mutlaq, in fact we are able to deduce that the path to rehabilitation, the path of recovery from a great number of mental illnesses, mental health related issues, the cure is within the Quran. The cure of this is in the dhikr of Ahlul Bayt. The cure for this is the Majlis of Imam al-Hussein. And there is proof and there is evidence leading towards this. In any case, if we understand the command of Amir al-Mu'mineen, ta'allamu kitab Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, learn, study the Quran and build your lives and illuminate your hearts and your souls using the Quran by studying the Quran. In light of the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the purpose for tonight's majlis, insha'Allah, is to have a glimpse of the tafsir of the Holy Quran, and particularly from Surah Al-A'raf. And the tafsir for today from Surah Al-A'raf has to do with verse number 163. And this has to do with the fishermen of Saturday. The fishermen of Saturday, inshallah, we will begin with that in a little bit. And before we begin tonight's tafsir, ahibai, there is also a request from the management over here to kindly participate in helping to build the masjid and the Hussainiyah over here at the Imam Ali Center, Masjid and Hussainiyah. And as you can see, there is a plan, this plot of land has been purchased, and there is a plan over here to build a Hussainiyah and to build the Majlis. And inshallah, through your contributions, you pray to the Mawla that this becomes a center of ilm and a center of hidayah, a place of congregation for the mu'mineen, a place through which the dhikr of Ahlul Bayt is revived, a place through which you are able to nurture the next generation of Shi'as and the next generation of the lovers of Ali Muhammad, insha'Allah. And this is written in your deeds of thawab, that you played a part in ensuring that the dhikr of Imam al-Hussein always continues. For inshallah, I believe if you would have any more questions or you have more details about this, you can speak directly with Sayyid Shahin Shah Zaidi, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tayyib, Tafsir Surah Al-A'raf, verse number 163. The title of the majlis is The Fishermen of Saturday. شوفوا Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واسألهم عن القرية التي كانت حاضرة البحر إذ يعدون في السبت إذ تأتيهم حيتانهم يوم سبتهم شرعا ويوم لا يسبتون لا تأتيهم كذلك تبلوهم بما كانوا يفسقون. You have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts forward for us the dhikr of a population, of a township during the time of Bani Israel. For there was a village that was living on the seashores. And according to a number of the Mufassirin, this was during the time of Bani Israel. This village is in the vicinity of present-day Antalya, around the region of Turkey, by the seaside. And there was this community of Bani Israel, they lived by the seaside, And naturally, being people who live by the sea or by the waters, a majority of the people within this village, their profession, their means of income primarily was to fish, through fishing. So they would go out, they would be fishermen, they would go out, they would engage in the activities of fishing. They would be able to provide an income for themselves and their families, and it was a staple food. During the time of Bani Israel, the prophet that was appointed to them said to them, Ya Jama'ah, from the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Friday is to be taken as a day of worship. Yawmul Jum'ah, you will find that in the original pure form of monotheistic faith as propagated by Nabiullah Ibrahim, Friday was always seen to be the day of ibadah, and the Friday from all the days of the week has its own khususiyah. That is why you will find it is mustahab, for example, this importance of Yawmul Jumu'ah, in the sense that this is the day in which Salatul Jum'ah is also ordained. The importance of Friday, Yawmul Jum'ah, is not only from the time of Rasulullah, but you find the importance of Jum'ah from the time of Nabiullah Ibrahim, and rather even before that, during the time of Nabi Adam. You will find from the importance of Jum'ah, the a'mals of Yawmul Jum'ah, you have Ghusl Jum'ah. Ghusl Jum'ah is mustahab. However, the level of the istihbab for Ghusl Jum'ah, if you were to look at the hadith that have emanated from Imam al-Baqir or Imam al-Sadiq in regards to the importance of Ghusl al-Jum'ah, you refer back to Wasa'il al-Shia of Sheikh Khurrul Amuli, the extent of importance that is exerted in Ghusl al-Jum'ah. The nature of the hadith was such that ulama and the maraja of the past actually used to have fatwas pointing towards the wujub and the obligation of performing Salatul Jum'ah. You find from the importance and the importance of Ghuslul Jum'ah, by the way, we have within our hadith, a person who performs Ghuslul Jum'ah for 40 consecutive Fridays is protected from the intensities of the adhab or the punishment of the grave on the first night. And the first of these punishments, or the most intense of these punishments, is the squeezing of the grave. You find that there is an absolutely mesmerizing conversation that Salman al-Muhammadi has with one of the people from the graveyards. I believe this conversation of Salman with the dead is also translated in English. Intum shufu, testament from the people who have passed away. They describe what happens to them from the time that their soul left their body to the time that ghusl was given. The mayyit himself, he's attesting and he's telling Salman what he went through and what the body experiences when we lower it into the grave. You and I stand at the grave and very easily lower the casket and very easily throw sand over it. You see what the soul is experiencing at that time. Allahu Akbar. In any case, Ghusl Jum'ah protects the person from the adhab of the grave in the first night if he does Ghusl Jum'ah for consecutive 40 Fridays. You have Friday is the day, Yawmul Jum'ah is the day which it is anticipated that the dhuhur of Maulana Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman will happen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I have hadith sharif that states that the dhuhur, or the qiyam I should say, the qiyam of the imam shall happen on a Friday, on the 10th of Muharram, as per the hadith, as per the attestation of the hadith. For you find that Yawmul Jum'ah is also the day where thawab are increased. Certain ibadat that you perform, dhikr that you perform, tasbih that you perform. This is the day where everything in regards to your bank account of thawab, your thawab are doubled up. An action that you could get a single thawab for if you did it on a Monday or a Tuesday, you find that same action is rewarded perhaps 10 times more on the day of Friday. Friday is the day to top up, if we can say. Top up the bank account for this great realm of existence that awaits us. Hence, you find that Jum'ah has this importance within the deen that has been stipulated by Allah Azza wa Jal. And similarly, for the time of Bani Israel, the Prophet came to them and said to them, Yabe, Friday, Yawmul Jum'ah is supposed to be a day of ibadah. And you should now, the command has come that you should refrain from engagement in worldly affairs. And Friday should be the day that we should concentrate in seeking proximity towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You find over here within the tafsir of the Holy Quran, the people who were living in this village, they turned back and they said to the Prophet of their time, "La, Anna, we don't want Friday to be the day of worship," because Friday was supposed to be an exclusive day of worship. They said, "La, we don't want Friday to be a day of worship." The Prophet said, "What do you mean?" They said, "We don't want Friday, we want Saturday to be the day of worship." Ajib. Allah Azza wa Jal, out of His mercy and out of His rahmah, the Prophet went back and communicated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with dua. He says, "Ya Allah, this community you have revealed in your divine command and wisdom that Friday should be the day of worship. This village of ours, or this village that you have appointed me to be their prophet, are not responding to me, are not. They have said instead of Friday, they want Saturday to be the day of ibadah." Tayyib. Allah Azza wa Jal, see what the end of the verse says over here within the Quran. كَذَلِكَ نَبْلُوهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْسُقُونَ. The place of contemplation over here is nabluhum. Nabluhum, a derivative from the word bala. Bala meaning a test. The usage of the word fitna and the usage of the word bala in many places of the Holy Quran refers to an imtihan, refers to a test through which the pious and the pure are separated from the impure. The believers are separated from the munafiqeen. There has to be a test that occurs such that all the people who are claiming to be believers, the truthfulness of their claim can now become apparent. This is why Karbala is known as Yawmul Furqan. One of the days of the day of Ashura is known as Furqan, because the lines became very clear as to who is on haqq and who is on batil. Similarly, you have our entire lives are filled with tests. This is perhaps one of the goals that is to be embraced, or the lessons that is to be embraced from the story of the fishermen of Saturday. For in any case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them. They've said to the Holy Prophet, "We don't want Friday to be a day of worship. We want to take Saturday." Tayyib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "For you, Saturday will be the day of worship." However, on this day of worship, it is now forbidden upon you to engage in fishing. We said this community, which is about 80,000 odd people, they're living on the seashore. Their main profession and the main business of the time, if you could say, was that they were fishermen. Saturday, one day, no fishing. So they were engaged in trade from Sunday until Friday. Saturday was the day that it was prohibited. Look how the imtihan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifests itself in order for the reality of a person to also be manifested. Mufassirin of the Quran say, from Sunday until Friday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these fishermen would go out into the sea. And with great difficulty, they would go deep into the waters and they would throw out their fishing nets. And with great difficulty, sometimes they would have a decent catch. Sometimes they would have less than what is sufficient. Sometimes they would come back empty-handed. Sometimes you would get a good catch in only a couple of hours. Sometimes the fishermen would toil in the waters and in the waves and in the turbulent seas, and they would come back. Fishing is a painful and it's a hard profession to be in, the fishermen. and you are always at the risk of life, particularly if the waves are as turbulent and as big. In any case, these fishermen were engaged in their trade from Sunday to Friday. They would struggle, and with great difficulty they would come back with a living and with a catch. Subhanallah, Saturday now has become the day which is forbidden for them to fish. What these people had actually done is, by the sea, because they were living at the seashore, they had created and they had dug in small channels. They had rechanneled the sea, created or dug in small channels, such that the water from the ocean or the water of the sea would float into the city, and through this they would be able to engage in farming. They would be able to irrigate the lands through the rechanneling of the water, and so on and so forth. So what happens is, from Sunday to Friday, them fishermen are suffering and struggling. Saturday, the day which is forbidden by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them to engage in fishing, and it's supposed to be a day of ibadah, subhanallah, suddenly the fish are in plentiful. The fish would come. Not only are they coming in, the fish were also, you could say, this is to make the example much closer to home. The fish became brave. They would swim right up to the shore. They would swim in the shallow waters. They would swim through the canals that were dug for the irrigation. And not one, not two, but they would be there in numbers. Subhanallah. The day Sunday comes, the fish have disappeared. These people are wondering, Sunday to Friday, and we're struggling. Where did all these fish go? We have to go in our boats and we have to go deep into the waters. This happened for a week. They said maybe it's a coincidence the first time. The second time, the second week, ajib, almost Saturday, the fish are in wholesale in the shallow waters, such that you can see them. See, show how the imtihan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifests itself. Second week, third week, fourth week or so. The hadith doesn't say fourth week. The mufassirin of the Quran don't say fourth week. After a certain period of time, these fishermen were not able to take it. Remember, the community is 80,000 people. 80,000 people. The fishermen couldn't take it. They said, what is this? We are suffering from Sunday to Friday. We can't find any fish and we have to go deep into the waters. Come over here Saturday. These fish are in wholesale and in plentiful. What should we do? A group of fishermen stood up and they said, look, they said, there's nothing that we can do about this. Now, this is the test. This is the imtihan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Saturday, mamnu ba'ad. We were told, and then they started becoming an internal dispute amongst them. The Prophet came and told you Friday should be the day of ibadah. See what happened? Now you argued with the Prophet. You said Saturday. Had the day of worship been Friday, we would have had access to these fish and this catch. Anyway, dispute happens and breaks out amongst the people. A fisherman decide over here, what we're going to do is, we're going to sit down and we're going to find the loophole. If finding a loophole in the religion and finding a loophole in the deen, this behavior, this attitude is not something new. This is from the time of Bani Israel, and even till today, mashallah, when it comes to experts in finding loopholes in the Sharia. This is a lesson for us. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, learn from the Quran. Rabi'ul Qulub, this is what gives life to our hearts, to our souls. Our lifeless souls are brought to life through the Quran. Tayyib, the fishermen sat down and they said, over here, let's think about a loophole. There has to be a way. If there is a rule, there should be a way to break the rule. They sat down and they said, Tayyib, the prohibition from fishing is the day of Saturday. So what we're going to do is, they have these small canals that come in to the city. They've rechanneled the river and the oceans. They've rechanneled the ocean or the sea to create these rivers. They said, what we're going to do is, we're going to create, or we're going to build something like a trap. Almost like the wall of a dam, or a net that falls in, such that on Fridays, or on Saturday, what will happen is when the fish actually come in and swim into the shallow waters, what we will do is we will create it in such a way that the trap is open on Friday night, and it will be open for such an amount of time that on Saturday night itself, the trap will fall down and the fish are stuck inside. So they can swim in close to the shores, but their fish will not be able to swim back out. And because it will be an automated process. Now, actually, technically, we have not fished. Sunday morning, we're going to wake up and all these fish are nice and easy, ready for us. Easy pickings. Tayyib. They said, yes, we will do that. That's a good idea. Look, they sat down and they thought about all the technicalities of the loophole. Huh? And this happened. فعلا, they did this the first week, they did this the second week, and they caught the fish in this manner. A group of people came up and they said, and the Prophet said to them, Yabe, what you are doing is that you are trying to deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This sort of a loophole cannot work. The fact that you are plotting against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the command of Allah, and trying to find these loopholes around the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is the equivalent of violating the laws of Allah. 80,000 people over here. Hadith Sharif says the community got divided into 3 groups. Became 3 firqas. Because they have the Nabi amongst them. The first group of people, which was the majority, the 50,000 of them, they said, listen, we are going to fish like normal and we're also going to eat this fish. As far as we are concerned, there is a technical loophole in the Sharia and we found the loophole. No one is actually fishing over there. Nobody wants to see that it is a form of deceit. So they were absolutely fine with the loophole. Number one, this is the first group of people. The second group of people were people who said, listen, Amra bil Ma'ruf is important. What you people are doing is that you are causing a mockery of this religion and a mockery of the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter how much you convince yourself that you have found the loophole, the reality of the matter is if you search deep inside your souls, you are trying to deceive Allah. People who stood up in Amra bil Ma'ruf, and they created a big fracas in the society with these 50,000 people. You had a third group of people. So this is a difficult situation to be in. This is tricky, man. Whose side am I going to be in? You've got one class over here. These are the fishermen. They are the prominent businessmen of the time. Huh? Fishing is the main trade of the time. These are the prominent businessmen of the time. This is the prominent status or the prominent people in a higher status of the community. These are the people who control the fish market, which means that you speak anything against them, the price of fish is going to go up, and fish was a staple food at that time. No one wants to go into war, and no one wants to cause friction and go against the most prominent businessmen of the community. So they said, listen, man, all these things that are happening over here, and then we have to choose between sides. If you choose this one side, that one gets offended. And if you choose that one side, this one's going to get offended. So a group of people came and they said, do you know what? We don't want to be involved in all this. At the end of the day, each person and their nafs. What you have to do is not going to affect me, and what I do is not going to affect you. Each person for themselves. Fi amanillah, salamun alaykum. Tafsir of the Quran, Hadith Sharif mentions that the group of people who did Amra bil Ma'ruf, their number was 10,000. The entire community was a community, the township had a population of 80,000 people. 10,000 of them are the ones who stood up to do Amra bil Ma'ruf. After a certain period of time, when these people were insistent on continuing to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet came to them, these 10,000 people, gave them a warning to leave the city on that night, because the next day the adhab is going to fall on the remaining people. Mufassirin of the Quran and Hadith al-Sharif mention these 10,000 people leave. On that night, the adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala falls upon the entire 70,000 population in the blink of an eye. And adhab, what a humiliating adhab. You go back and you refer to the verse of the Quran in Surah Al-A'raf, the adhab that fell upon them. They were changed into apes overnight. The next day, these 10,000 people, some of them go into the city to see what is the situation. The Prophet has foretold them, there's a prophecy that there's going to be adhab on them. The city, in the olden times, the cities were built with borders. The borders, they had walls around their borders, and the borders had main gates that would be open and closed. So that night they closed the gates. The people who remained in the city closed the gates like normal. When these other 10,000 people, a delegation of them were trying to enter in, they find that the doors are still locked. The doors to the city are still closed. The borders are still shut. This is something ajib. Mufassirin of the Quran say that the people from the outside could even hear the noises of apes from the other side of the wall. And they're like, what has happened over here? They climb over the walls, they see the entire population of 70,000 people changed into apes. Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. A second of your salawat to hasten the reappearance of Imam al-Hujjah. Ma'soom Imam Sajjad Ruhi Lahul Fida says they remained in a state as apes for 3 days until the adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a second time fell upon them and they were extinguished from the face of this earth. Hibai, this is the story of the people or the fishermen of Saturday. If you refer back to the Tafsir of Surah Al-A'raf, verse 163, it is important that as you read these verses of the Holy Quran and the stories of the past, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ruhi Lahul Fidan says, وَتَفَقَّهُ فِيهِ. Contemplation over the Quran is important. When we read the story of the fishermen of Saturday, there is a number of lessons that we are able to extract from the Holy Quran that we need to implement in our lives. Number one, this behavior of finding loopholes within the Sharia. You know, one of the biggest tools of shaitan. We have a verse in the Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانَ أَعْمَالَهُمْ. Shaitan has the ability to make you feel when you are sinning and you are against Allah that you are actually doing something good. So shaitan actually has the power to help you justify the sin that you commit. And this is perhaps the greatest disaster that mankind faces, the justification of sin. A person would rather commit a sin and would accept and would confess that what I'm doing is haram, and yes, it is wrong, and yes, my heart is weak or my nafs is weak, and I will try to change myself and I will do istighfar. It is better to accept than rather to manipulate the Sharia, to be insistent on doing something that is haram and justifying it. And justifications when it comes to the violation of this deen and this Sharia, mashallah. Ahibai, whether we like it or we don't like it. A mixed gathering in a mixed wedding is haram. Whether you like it or you don't like it. Sharia of the fiqh of Imam as-Sadiq, no matter, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraj. The fiqh of Imam as-Sadiq, ahibba'i, you cannot have a mixed reception. A woman who is supposed to be a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, a woman who is supposed to be the servant of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, a woman who is supposed to be upholding the azadari of Sayyidah Zainab, on this one day of her life when she is supposed to beautify herself for her husband, she sits to be paraded in a wedding hall in front of 100, 200, 300 na-mahram. Where is the ghira of the father-in-law? Where is the ghira of the husband? This wife whose beauty and her innocence, her beauty is preserved for you, has been granted to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you would want your wife to be, her beauty to be paraded and for her to become the object of other na-mahram people's eyes. Where's the ghira? Where's the lesson from Karbala? And the justification, MashaAllah, la, Shaykhuna, we're going to be reciting mankabat. Ajib. The recitation of mankabat made the lack of hijab acceptable. Where's the justification? Hi, huwa, justification. These are the fishermen of Saturday, the fishermen of today's day and age. They say, la, Shaykhuna, we have to have mixed gatherings inside them. Wedding has to be mixed because this is Silatul Raham. Ajib. See, the hurma, the law is haram. This is the fiqh of Imam as-Sadiq is haram. The human mind, this is where shaitan comes. To come and to find justification. Sometimes the justification is we will have mankabat. Sometimes the justification it is silatul raham. Baba, how zayyana lahum ash-shaytana a'malahum. Use the sharia and the false pretext of the sharia to destroy the sharia. Justification of sin. This happens at multiple levels. The same thing. It comes to tabarra. Ya ilahi, ahibai. Speaking about the truth. The shahadat of Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen. The reality of the matter is that the daughter of the Holy Prophet was physically assaulted until it led to the death of her unborn child. It led to her martyrdom. The reality of the matter is that it was the Sahaba who lit a door on fire. They said, no. We have something much bigger. We have to focus on unity. And we have to be one big ummah together. Sahih. We have to be one big ummah without a doubt. But not at the expense of the right of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra. There is unity in every... Habibi, unity means peaceful coexistence. Unity means that we do not engage in any sort of violence. Everybody has the freedom of choice and the freedom of belief. But you know what unity also means? Freedom of expression. Where I should be able to have the freedom and the right to express my religion and give voice to those people who are oppressed in the deen. Shuf. They want to cover the haqq. And the justification of this is what? Try and use the sharia. Everything has hudud. Everything has limits. You cannot try and destroy the religion and then justify. This is the point that I'm trying to make is Bani Adam becomes an expert in the justification of sins. And you know this behavior of justification is not limited to the dunya. This entire film, drama, will open up Yawmul Qiyamah. Oh, Allahu Akbar. Inshallah, maybe in the future, we have an opportunity to do tafsir of the Quran and understand the Yawmul Qiyamah from the Quran. Allah, it's like a film. It's like a film that opens in front of you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you how people will act on the day of judgment. Some people will come on the day of judgment. Nar Jahannam is in front of them. Nar Jahannam is in front of them. Allah will say, why these are your book of a'mal? Baba, they have sinned. Nar Jahannam is in front of them, yet they will lie to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They'll say, no, Allah, we didn't do this. Ajib. See, Bani Adam. But Nar Jahannam is in front of you. This is Rabbul Jaleel. If anything, put your hands up, say, I'm sorry, seek for forgiveness from Allah, His Rahman and Rahim. La, but man is arrogant and insistent. And then there are people, Yawmul Qiyamah, not only will they lie to Allah, they will justify their sins to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will justify. Then there are those who will blame other people. They'll say, Ya Allah, why you are blaming me? Blame them. They are the ones who... Oh. If you think the dunya has drama, wait for the drama of the akhirah. Nastajiru min Allah from this. Justification in dhulm. You find Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad ibn Marjana la'anatullah alayh. When they captured Muslim bin Aqil, Ruhi lahul fida, when Imam Muslim bin Aqil was captured in Kufa, and they brought him into the palace before they executed him. This public execution of Imam Muslim bin Aqil and the violence that was used against him and his companions, what was the justification? You go back to the Maqtal, when he was brought in the palace in front of Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad looked at Muslim bin Aqil and said to him, you are the reason of disuniting the entire Muslim population of Kufa. قَدْ فَرَّقْتَ بَيْنَ أَصَاتِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. You caused disunity. Ajib. Shuf. Look at the justification. Muslim bin Aqil stood up for haqq. Muslim bin Aqil stood up to call the people towards the imamat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. What did Ibn Ziyad accuse him of? Disunity. He said, you are the one who broke the unity of this community. So justification for his public execution. Unity does not mean that we have a collective agreement that we are going to support batil. This is not the language of the deen. This is not the language of the hadith. This is not the language of the Quran. Nor can excuses like these be used, or justifications like these be used to destroy the religion. This is the deen of Ibn Ziyad. They executed Imam Muslim bin Aqil based on this. Tariq has mentioned this. Go back and see inside. For the first thing that you find within the tafsir and the lessons of the people or the fishermen of Saturday is this danger and this, you can say, tumor or cancer within the human soul, which is the justification of sin. Number one. Number two, the second lesson that we are able to extract from here, Ahibba'i, the importance of Amr bil Ma'ruf and the Nahy anil Munkar. There are certain imtihans. See, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in this Surah Al-A'raf? وَنَبْلُوهُمْ. This became an imtihan. There are certain imtihans that are placed upon you in your life. And the goal and the purpose of this imtihan is that it is expected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to take a stance. There are some things in life, there are some things in religion that are absolutely critical. Remaining neutral is not an option. Look at what happened. The fishermen of Saturday, the people of Sabt, 80,000 people were in this village. 50,000 of them are the ones who are actually violating the sanctity of the Sharia. 50,000. 10,000 of them left the city. The 10,000 who did Amr bil Ma'ruf, they are the ones who became the black sheep of the community, if you want to say. They are the ones who became the rebels of the community, if you can say. They left 10,000. They are safe from the punishment of Allah Azza wa Jal. People who don't necessarily submit to peer pressure or societal pressure. They feel that they are forced to be a part of the society if it is on batil. 10,000 of them, courage. They took a stance. They did Amr bil Ma'ruf. Haqq is haqq, batil is batil. Even if it meant, you think about this, 10,000 people overnight had to leave the city. This is not something small, huh? Religion and standing by the deen comes at a price, comes at a cost. Can you imagine that there is an issue where you have to choose between haq and batil? Overnight, you got to shut down and close down your house over here in Houston and move from one state to another. It's not something easy. It takes a level of iman, takes a level of yaqeen that you believe in this so much that you're willing to leave all your possessions overnight and leave the city. These are people who took a mawqif. They took a stand in their life when it came to defending haqq. 10,000. The people who are actually engaged in the prohibited fishing were 50,000. 50 plus 10 is what? 60. There were 80,000 people, the population of that city. What happened to these 20,000? These 20,000 people who were neutral. They didn't want over here, the way they say, my Urdu is not that good, but the way they say, "Humko panga nahi lena." Over here to get in touch with this person, iske saath wo tension karne ka, and that. But we don't want this tension. We don't want to get involved in all these community politics, in it. We're going to sit and we're going to be where we are. These 20,000 people who felt, they said it's not our business. If the deen is being violated, let the deen be violated. It's not I'm the one, it's not me who's doing this. Subhanallah, you find that rule of thumb in life. This is taught to us by the deen. Evil only prevails on earth when good men decide to remain silent. Amirul Mu'mineen Ruhi Lahul Fida says, the person who is silent in the face of dhulm is like the silent shaitan. Shaitan. 20,000 people. The adhab of Allah Azza wa Jal encompassed these 20,000 people as well. Entum raji'u Tafsir of Ashabul Sabt. 2 verses in the Quran that speak about this. The adhab included the people who were neutral. Do you know why? Because their neutrality is what fueled the jur'ah, the audacity of these 50,000 people. The same thing, if you remember a few nights ago, we tied this with Karbala when we were looking at the psychological makeup of the army of Yazid. Majority of the people who fought against Imam al-Hussein, this army that was vast in its numbers, 30,000 of the people were nawasib, who thought that it is their religious responsibility to spill the blood of Imam al-Hussein. In addition to that, there were people who were in for financial gains. There were mercenaries who were looking to make money through war. You have a large majority of the army of Yazid. These were people who were neutral. Actually, they said, listen, we don't want any trouble over here. Neither are we on the side of Imam al-Hussein, neither are we on the side of Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. Why should we get involved in the politics of between Bani Hashim and Bani Umayyah? Neutrality many times in deen is not an option. We are created to be men who take stances. And if your stance is a stance of haqq, this is what you read in Dua Nudba on a Friday. Look at how the Imam describes Amir al-Mu'mineen. La yakhuduhu fillahi lawmata la'imin. One of the things about Amir al-Mu'mineen is that when he was on haqq, he didn't care about the opinion of the people. If you are on haqq, you are on haqq. Don't make yourself into sheep who live their lives and shape their lives based on the opinion of other people, or who live their lives based on what society decides for them. This is what Imam al-Hussein said on the day of Ashura. If you are not men of religion, if you are not people of a faith, then at least be free men in your lives. The Ashab and the Ansar of Imam al-Hujjah are those who are going to be free men. Free men in the sense that they are not intimidated by batil. The people of haqq. And truthfully speaking, the Majlis of Imam al-Hussein is a training ground for this. The institution of Azadari, the institution of Matam in all its intensities is a training ground for this. Aywa. Same thing when it came to the camel of Saleh. You refer back to the Quran. فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ. Allah, the people who killed the camel of Saleh were maybe 3 or 4 people. Yet the adhab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, fell upon the entire ummah. Sometimes in the Sharia, in the deen of Imam as-Sadiq, silence towards dhulm is tacit approval of dhulm. And tacit approval of dhulm means you are guilty as well. You are party to the crime. The scales and the ma'yar of the religion are very different from non-religion. And hence, ahibai, will suffice with these many points from the tafsir. But it becomes important when we read the Quran, number 1, as Amirul Mu'mineen said, number 1, ta'allamu kitab Allah. It is important we take time and we schedule our lives that not only are we reciting Quran, we are memorizing Quran, we are studying the Quran. And then Amirul Mu'mineen goes on to say, tafakkahu. Take lessons, extract lessons of the tafsir from the Quran, tafsir of the Quran. Number 4, implement. We learn about ourselves. If there is any way that you can traverse through the muddy waters of this day and age, it is by learning from the people of the past. You look at everything that happens in the fishermen of Saturday. They are the time of Bani Israel. But if you look at everything of the 4 things that we have spoken about today, they are a reflection of what happens in our communities. And I don't mean you community over here in particular. I'm saying in general, the Shia world. These 4 issues are issues that we face over here as well. Sahih Lola comes back from the Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ahibai Karbala, Karbala, and the tragedies of Karbala. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba on his deathbed turns towards Sayyid al-Shuhada and he says to him, La yawmka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. There is no day like your day, ya Aba Abdullah. The intensity and the grief of the day of Ashura. There is no day like Ashura. From all the trials and the tribulations that fell upon Imam al-Hussein, from all the trials and the tribulations that fell upon Sayyida Zainab, Allahu Akbar. Imam al-Hussein, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Sayyid al-Sabr. He had the highest level of sabr. Sayyida Zainab, al-Masa'ib. She had the highest level of sabr. But today, Masa'ib, I want to mention for you 2 accounts. One for Imam al-Hussein and one for Sayyida Zainab. The Masa'ib for Imam al-Hussein was so great, that for this tragedy, Imam al-Hussein had to cry out to his father, Imam Ali, for help. He cried out to his father, Amirul Mu'minin. And one Masa'ib for Sayyida Zainab, the tragedy was so great, Sayyida Zainab called out to her father, Amirul Mu'minin, to help. Allah, Allah. The narrations mention Shi'at Amirul Mu'mineen. The narrations mention Yawmul Ashura when Imam Ali Akbar was in the Maidan. Allah, Allah. When Ali Akbar was in the Maidan, from all the tragedies Imam al-Hussein went through, but the tragedy of Ali Akbar, do you know Imam al-Hussein was standing at the front of the Khaymaga and he's watching the jihad of Ali Akbar until at one point an enemy came and he struck the head of Ali Akbar with a sword. Ali Akbar's horse disappears into the side of the enemies. At this moment, Imam al-Hussein is is not able to see what happens, but he heard from the far side of the Maidan, Assalamu wa alayka assalam minni ya abata. He heard the voice of Ali al-Akbar, and my salams upon you, O my father. The Maktal mentions Imam al-Hussein went running out of the Khaymaga. Sayyida Sukaina says, oh my father, Baba, where are you running to? Imam al-Hussein says, I heard Ali al-Akbar. Do you know what Sukaina said? Sukaina says, Baba, the call came from that direction. You are running in the opposite direction. Imam al-Hussein says, Sukaina, don't blame me. With the pain in the voice of Ali Akbar, I've lost my eyesight. Allah, Allah. Don't ask me how Imam al-Hussein reaches the body of Ali al-Akbar. But the Maktal says that when the horse of Ali al-Akbar ran into the direction of the enemies, the Maktal says, فَقَطَّعُوهُ عِرْبًا عِرْبًا. They cut Ali al-Akbar to pieces. This one hit him with an arrow, this one with a sword, this one with a spear, that one with an axe. I saw inside of the Maktal, it says that when the horse of Ali al-Akbar ran into the enemies, the one who didn't have a weapon, he picked up a piece of wood and they hit Ali al-Akbar. Imam al-Hussein reaches the body of Ali al-Akbar. Don't ask me how he reaches the body of Ali al-Akbar. The Maktal says, Imam al-Hussein, he sits down. He looks at Ali al-Akbar. He puts his cheek on the cheek of Ali al-Akbar. And he says, Ala dunya ba'daka al-afa. There is no reason to live after you, Ali al-Akbar. He sits down, he wipes the sand and he wipes the blood from the face of Ali Akbar. He sees Ali Akbar is smiling. Imam al-Hussein says to him, my son Ali, I see you smile. He says, why? Ali al-Akbar says to him, oh father, you remember when I was in the Khaymaga and I asked you for water? You told me, wait a little bit, have sabr, because your grandfather is going to quench your thirst with the water from Kawthar. Imam al-Hussein said, yes. Ali al-Akbar says, father, from the heavens I can see my grandfather Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's coming with a pond of Kawthar, and with him is my grandmother Fatima al-Zahra. She's saying, tell Hussein, Ajjil ilayna, hurry towards us. Allah, Allah. Ali al-Akbar in this conversation with his father Imam al-Hussein, Ali al-Akbar has his hand on his chest. And now he stops smiling. Tears begin to flow down the eyes of Ali al-Akbar. Imam al-Hussein can see that Ali Akbar is in pain. He is moving to the right, he is moving to the left. The Maktal says, Imam al-Hussein said to Ali Akbar, let me see your wound. Ali Akbar says, no. The Alim says over here, Ali al-Akbar said, oh father, if I show you my wound, it is going to kill you faster than it will It will kill you faster than it will kill me. Imam al-Hussein is insistent. The Maktal says, Imam al-Hussein removed the hands of Ali al-Akbar. He sees that there is a broken arrow that is pierced in the chest of Ali al-Akbar. Do you know when Imam al-Hussein saw the broken arrow, it hurt him so much. The Maktal says he put one hand on the chest of Ali Akbar, the other hand on the broken arrow. He then looked up towards the heavens and he said, oh my father Ali, the one who lifted the door of Khaybar, come and help your son Hussein. Allah, Shi'at Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allah have mercy on your tears. We don't know if we are going to have another Muharram to cry for Imam al-Hussein. This musibah of Ali Akbar was so great. Imam al-Hussein cried out and said, Ya Ali adrikni. It's Masa'ib, second Masa'ib, second on the day of for the day of Ashura for Sayyida Zainab. This is in Sham Ghariban, Allah, Sham Ghariban. Sayyida Zainab is inside of the burning tent. All the women are running in every direction. Sayyida Rabab, Sayyida Layla, all of them are running out. The little children are running out of the burning tent. There is black smoke everywhere. And then Hamid ibn Muslim says that as the women and the children were running out, they were running into the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Over here you have a young girl from the Yatima of Bani Hashim. She runs away from a burning tent, but she runs into the hands of the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. This one would slap her, this one would steal from her. Allah, in all this, Sayyida Zainab is looking. Do I save the women and the children? Do I run from the burning tent? Or do I save Sajjad who is inside? The Maktal mentions when Sayyida Zainab went into the Khaymaga, she would enter in, she would come out. She would enter in, she would come out. Habib ibn Muslim or Hamid ibn Muslim says, I went a little bit closer. He says, I thought that Zainab, there was something precious in her possessions. He said, when I went closer, I saw that this lady is trying to drag Zainul Abidin outside. But do you know, dragging or bringing out Imam Sajjad from the burning tent was so difficult. At one point, Sayyida Zainab enters into the Khaymaga. The ulama, the older scholars in the house used to say, at one point, Sayyida Zainab looked into the heavens from the burning Khaymaga and she said, oh my father Ali, Adrikni, help me in removing Zainul Abidin. ماتم حسين ماتم زينب.
भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की सांस ना रुक जाए यार काफिला सालार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की सांस ना रुक जाए यार काफिला सालार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है शाम के बाजार की भीड़ बढ़ती जा रही है شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی چھین کر زینا کی چادر شمر یہ کہتا رہا چھین کر زینا کی چادر شمر یہ کہتا رہا لوٹ لی دستار میں نے احمد مختار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی سب مل کے نام مولا کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی چھین کر زینب کی چادر شمر یہ کہتا رہا چھین کر زینب کی چادر شمر یہ کہتا رہا لوٹ لی دستار میں نے احمد مختار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی ایک منادی شام کی گلی یوم دیتا ہے صدا ایک منادی شام کی گلی یوم دیتا ہے صدا رسیوں میں بیٹیاں ہیں حیدر کرار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی ایک منادی شام کی گلی یوم دیتا ہے صدا ایک منادی شام کی گلی یوم دیتا ہے صدا رسیوں میں بیٹیاں ہیں حیدر کرار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی ظلم سے نیلے ہوئے نیلے سے کالے ہو گئے ظلم سے نیلے ہوئے نیلے سے کالے ہو گئے شام تک رنگت بدلتی ہی رہی رخسار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی ظلم سے نیلے ہوئے نیلے سے کالے ہو گئے ظلم سے نیلے ہوئے نیلے سے کالے ہو گئے شام تک رنگت بدلتی ہی رہی رخسار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے جا رہی ہے،
ماشاءاللہ
کے بازار کی بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے، شام کے بازار کی۔ صرف 40 سال ہو گے خون رونے کے لیے، صرف 40 سال ہوں گے خون رونے کے لیے، عمر ہی کتنی بچی تھی عابد بیمار کی، بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی، بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی، بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی، بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی۔ صرف 40 سال ہو گے خون رونے کے لیے، صرف 40 سال ہوں گے خون رونے کے لیے، عمر ہی کتنی بچی ہے عابد بیمار کی، بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شام کے بازار کی، بھیڑ بڑھتی جا رہی ہے شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، 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 جن ٹکرے لب گئے مینو مکتے چولے آیا وا، آوے کل تو بھر جائی، شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، جن ٹکرے لب گئے مینو مکتے چولے آیا وا، آوے گل تو بھر جائی، شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، شاگٹھری کھول کے جدو فرونو پتر دلاش وخائی، بول تیرے بان رہنو کی وے سہرا سمجھ کے چادر جدو کھولی قاسم دے لئی وچ لاش نہ پوری آئی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی بول تیرے بن رہنو ایوے صحرا لاوا میں صحرا سمجھ کے چادر جدو گولی قاسم دے لئی وچ لاش نہ پوری آئی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی جن ٹکرے لب گئے مینوں مقطع چولے آیا وا آویگ تو بھر جائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی ہاتھ لبدی پیر لبدی کدی چہرہ لبدی کوئی ایسا ثابت نہیں سی قاسم دے پاک بدندا کہ میں ترتیب بنائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی ہاتھ لبدی پیر لبدی کدی چہرہ لبدی کوئی ایسا ثابت نہیں سی قاسم دے پاک بدندا کہ وہ ماں ترتیب بنائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی شاگٹری کھول کے جدو فرمانوں پتر دی لاش وغائی جن ٹکرے لب گئے مینوں مقطع چولے آیا وا آویگ تو بھر جائی شاگٹری کھول کے اور محمد محمد صلی